Right now, somewhere in your city, a 26-year-old with a completely average job owns a house they haven't fully paid for. And a total stranger is paying that mortgage for them every single month, on time, without fail. No, this isn't a scam. It's not luck. It's not something only rich people get access to. It's a financial secret that banks, landlords, and wealthy families have quietly used for over 100 years, while teaching the rest of us to be terrified of it. Here's the uncomfortable part. The exact tool that builds generational wealth for landlords is the same tool most of us were taught to run away from. Debt is dangerous, they said. Debt is scary. Debt keeps you trapped. But what if the opposite is true? What if debt, used correctly, is the fastest legal wealth-building machine most people will never touch, simply because they were too afraid to understand it? Let me introduce you to someone. We'll call him John. 28 years old, nervous, sitting in a bank office signing paperwork for a mortgage worth more money than he's ever seen in his life. His hands are actually shaking a little. His parents think he's lost his mind. His friends laugh and tell him he's about to lose everything. And honestly, in that moment, John kind of believes them too. But 5 years later, something strange has happened. John didn't get a raise. He didn't win anything. He didn't work a second job. And yet, quietly, in the background, his net worth has grown by tens of thousands of dollars. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how that happens. And you might start wondering why nobody explained this to you sooner. Now, before we go further, let's kill the objections sitting in your head right now, because I know they're there. What if the tenant stops paying rent? That's a real risk, which is exactly why smart investors keep cash reserves for exactly that situation, instead of assuming every single month will be perfect. What if the market crashes? Also real. Property values do go up and down in the short term. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, and anyone who tells you it is has never actually done it. This video isn't about pretending rental property is risk-free. It's about understanding the mechanics so clearly that you can manage the risk instead of being controlled by fear of it. So, let's start with the first mechanism, the one that makes everything else possible. It's called leverage, and here's the simplest way to picture it. Imagine a machine that quietly prints a small amount of money every single month. That machine costs $300,000. You don't have that much. Almost nobody does. But a bank looks at that machine and says, "This is a stable, valuable asset. We'll lend you the money to buy it, as long as you pay us back slowly, with a little interest." You put down $60,000 of your own money. The bank covers the remaining $240,000. You now control the entire machine, using mostly the bank's money. That's leverage. Controlling something far bigger than what you actually paid for. But here's where it gets interesting, because now you need something to justify that loan. That's where the second mechanism comes in. Think of the property like an apple tree. Nobody buys an apple tree just to look at it. You buy it because every season it produces fruit. Rental property works the same way. The rent is the fruit, but here's the part people miss. The tree itself also grows bigger every year, and someone else is watering it for you. That someone is the tenant. Every month, that tenant pays rent. Part of that rent covers John's loan payment to the bank. So, the debt that made everyone around him nervous is slowly being erased. Not by John's paycheck, by his tenant's money. This is the third mechanism, and it's the one nobody talks about enough. It's called forced paydown. Every single month, a little more of that loan disappears. Quietly, automatically, without John lifting a finger. Now watch what happens next, because this is where the real magic starts. Real estate tends to grow in value over time. Let's use a boring, realistic number, 3% a year. In year 1, John's property is worth $300,000. By year 3, it's climbed to around $328,000. By year 6, it's near $357,000. By year 10, it's crossed $400,000. Here's the twist most people never catch. That growth isn't calculated on John's $60,000 down payment. It's calculated on the entire $300,000 property because he controls the whole asset. And this is where I need you to really pay attention, because this next part will probably surprise you. If that property rises in value by just 10%, John didn't make 10% on his money. He made roughly 50% on his original $60,000 down payment before financing costs, taxes, and expenses are factored in. Because a 10% gain on $300,000 is $30,000, and $30,000 is half of what he actually invested. That's not a typo. That's leverage working exactly the way wealthy families have used it for generations. Now let's add the fifth mechanism, cash flow. After the mortgage, insurance, and basic expenses are paid using the rent, sometimes there's a little money left over each month. Not life-changing amounts at first, but real money, arriving whether John works that day or not. The sixth mechanism is one most people don't even think about. Certain expenses tied to owning rental property can reduce how much tax John owes because the government treats income-producing property differently than a regular paycheck. We won't go deep into the technical side here, but understand this. The tax rules were never designed to punish property owners. In many cases, they quietly reward them. Now here's where everything starts stacking on top of itself. After several years, John doesn't just own a property, he owns equity, meaning the actual value he now controls after subtracting what he still owes the bank. Let's compare that to the version of John who chose the safe path instead. If he had kept that $60,000 sitting in a regular savings account, after 10 years, slow growth and inflation might leave him with somewhere around $67,000. Meanwhile, the John who bought the rental property could be sitting on equity worth over $200,000. Same starting amount, same 10 years, completely different outcome. And this is where the seventh mechanism kicks in. Once John has built up enough equity, he can refinance, which simply means going back to the bank and borrowing against the value he's already built, to buy a second property. Then a tenant pays that one down too. Then a third property. This is called scaling, but really, it's just repeating a pattern that already worked, using equity instead of new savings. This is the snowball effect. It doesn't start big. It starts slow, almost boring, for the first year or two. Then, it quietly compounds into something most people never expect. Now, let's talk about why so many people never get here, because this is the part that matters most. Most of us are wired to avoid short-term discomfort, even when it costs us long-term reward. Signing a large loan feels uncomfortable today. Watching a savings account sit there, untouched, feels safe today. But comfort today and wealth over decades are almost never the same path. The people who build real wealth through property aren't smarter than everyone else. They're simply more willing to sit with a temporary, uncomfortable feeling in exchange for a long-term structural advantage. John felt that discomfort too, remember. Shaking hands, doubting parents, laughing friends. The difference wasn't confidence. It was his willingness to move forward despite the fear, instead of waiting for the fear to disappear first. So what should you actually take from this? Not, go take on debt tomorrow. Not every debt is the same. Debt used to buy things that lose value the moment you own them quietly makes you poorer. Debt used to acquire an asset that pays for itself and grows over time can make you significantly wealthier. And be patient, because this entire process is slow by design. It's monthly rent payments and gradual growth over 10, 15, 20 years. It doesn't feel exciting in year one. It feels almost invisible. That's exactly why most people quit before they ever see the results. The wealth isn't hidden because it's complicated. It's hidden because it's slow enough that impatience convinces people it isn't working. And here's something worth sitting with for a moment. Every year you wait isn't just a missed opportunity sitting quietly on the sidelines. Somewhere right now, someone your age is signing paperwork with shaking hands, just like John did, and slowly building something you haven't started yet. Because here's the truth almost nobody says out loud. 10 years from now, you will almost certainly still be making a mortgage payment every single month, one way or another. The only real question is, will that payment be building equity in your landlord's investment? Or will it finally be building equity in your own?